Welcome to part 2 of the question and answers from the first week's class. And just continuing on, let's get right into it. What does it take to do well in sales? Are there certain things every business person or entrepreneur should be practicing, or does it always vary? So I already mentioned some great things you should be doing: working on your listening skills, working on your questioning skills, working on your interpersonal skills, which is your communication skills. A lot of times these are called soft skills. And I've heard different things about, people should focus on their strengths and really build up their strengths. Other people should focus on their weaknesses and make their weaknesses better, so they're not as weak as they are. A lot of it depends on what exactly you're trying to do. I definitely understand you have a finite amount of time, so definitely making a plan and then sticking to it and dedicating time to work on those skills is really what's going to set you apart from someone else. So that's usually a good starting point there. What does it take to do well in sales? I mentioned that. The other thing I would mention is I think somebody who's very well prepared, in my experience, is somebody who makes a plan. They have a to-do list. They're proactive. These are types of traits that tend to do pretty well in sales. Can you be successful in sales and not have those skills? Yes, but more likely than not, the better salespeople do that. The thing I like to say is you're not born a salesperson. You have to work on a lot of these skills. So just like some people, it comes a little easier for them, and then others have to practice a lot harder. A lot of people say Michael Jordan, a lot of his success was his work ethic and how hard he's willing to work. And I'm sure if you asked him that, he would probably agree. When he switched to baseball, he was like playing. A lot of the coaches, I watched a documentary on him, and all the coaches were just said, I've never seen a player with that type of work ethic that he had. Next question. I would really like to see different ways to connect with customers and ways to sales pitch. Yeah, I kind of mentioned this in the last video that in sales, you're going to come across different customers with different personalities, different interests, things like that. I was just listening to the radio on the car ride home yesterday, and they were saying how some recruiters are people who hire you, will sometimes favor one candidate over the other if they have the same interests. So if they played soccer and the recruiter played soccer, it's like, oh, you played soccer, and they will actually give them some sort of unfair treatment. They'll give them a better treatment than they would to a candidate who is not interested in soccer. So just like in sales, there are some people that you will naturally cling to and you'll just click, and then there'll be other people where you don't. I mentioned in the last video that, in order to do that is to develop different learning styles. There's also something called mirroring, which we will see later in the book, which is kind of imitating that person and what they're like. So, because people like people like people that are like them. So if you can pull it off correctly, it could help. It could actually backfire as well. I've heard of people thinking, you're not being very genuine. You're just telling me what I want to hear. So there's no one right answer there. I think you have a couple of different strategies that you can go for. I'd love to learn more behind the consumer behavior, the why people buy and their actions. Well, you're in luck. We're going to do a whole video. One of the YouTube assignments is on persuasion. I think you'll find that really interesting. And then if you'd like, I could give you some other books to read, but consumer choice is really interesting. Choice overload, or what's just the right amount of choices. A lot of the research I've seen is the more choices someone has, the less likely they are to buy. However, the less choices somebody has, the less likely they are to even come into your door or look at your products, right? So you need a lot of products for people to come in and get their attention. But to actually sell people, they've done a lot of research that shows it's actually better to have a smaller amount, that the sales, the amount of people that come in and actually buy, that number goes up with less choices. So there is a lot of research there, and experiment would be my one thing, is to experiment. As a salesperson, you should never just stick to a script. You can have a script to start, but you'll need to evolve that script and have have different options that you can try out. Okay. And then some things will work for long periods of time, some things for short period of times. You have to adapt. Why do companies put something on sale for as little as a few cents? Why not take 50 cents or more? So this kind of goes into the psychology. Americans especially like deals. J.C. Penney a long time ago tried to implement a low cost for all strategy where, it's like Walmart. Any day of the week you come in, you will get the lowest advertised price. And you would think that strategy would be very successful because no matter when you come in to the Walmart, you're going to get the best deal you possibly could. But what they found was a lot of people were used to getting coupons in the mail and were habituated to it. And again, Americans, this isn't, if you go to other countries, it's not the case. Some countries don't use any discounts. But this is called first of all, let me define this, this is called a sales promotion. And my question, the thing was about sales professions. It's a little different, right? So you have sales promotion, which is a marketing tool. And then you have a salesperson, which is somebody selling you something. But this is a marketing tool, which is to have some sort of promotional thing going on. And to this person's question, I agree. Having a larger sale is more enticing than having like only 10 cents off, which really isn't even worth your time. However, the point I made with JCPenney's is psychologically, people just want a deal. If they think they're getting a deal, whether it's really not a deal, but psychologically, if they think they're getting a deal, people like that, right? You feel special. You feel that you got you did a better performance than others. Take that with what you will, but that's what the science shows as far as get deals, especially in America. Again, America. I'd like to know more about how to prepare for a sales interview and what people are looking for when hiring. So this is a really broad question. I can't give you the exact information. You want to do your research on the company. Different companies have different values, different mission statements. So depending on that company, you can go there. What I might recommend is there's a website called glassdoor.com. And on there, you can get questions and things like that of what they typically will ask during an interview. And they might get some pointers there. Sales typically, as you all mentioned, has to do with like used car salesmen, and they're really fast speaking and they're loud. That's not always the case. You might think, well, that's what people hire for, is they hire for loud people who are good talkers. That's not necessarily the case. Do your research on the company. Some companies want college students. They want someone who's never been trained in sales before because they want to train them themselves with their training. So there's a lot of different, don't think that they're all looking for the same type of salesperson. And do your research and then come prepared for the questions that they're going to be asking. But they will be looking for certain traits like, are you really relatable? Are you friendly? Are you good with teamwork? There will be searching for those things, but do your research and figure out which is more important or which one is reoccurring in your research. Okay. I've always wondered about commission plans. So this is a great topic, commission plans. Many people go into sales because sales can sometimes earn more money than a CEO of a company. Yes, that's actually happened before. And that is because sales sometimes are paid by how much they sell. And if you sell a ton of things, you can make a ton of money. And I guess my biggest advice there is just if it's an older company, the commission structures tend to have limits on them, but you can still make a good amount of money. I've known some people who work for startups and their sales companies, and again, it's like winning the lotto almost. They will work for companies when they're starting up, and these companies just burst in growing, and I've heard of them making tons of money. I think that's I wouldn't be chasing the money if I were you. I would be chasing a product or service that you're interested in selling, because you will have to talk to hundreds of people, whether via email, communicating via face-to-face or telephone. You're going to be talking to 100 people. Do you want to be talking to them about something you care nothing about? Hopefully you find something you're somewhat interested in. I know that's not always possible, but that might be something to start because it will become a big part of your life. And if you're really good at it, the money tends to follow. But yes, in sales, you tend to get commissions, which is the bonus based on how many things you sell on top of your base salary. It's pretty uncommon these days to not get a base salary, to not get at least like $10,000 plus commission or $20,000 plus commission. There are jobs, though, that it's only commission, which basically means if you don't sell anything, you don't get food on your table at home, which is kind of crazy to think about. Somebody, and then this person's also asking about, hey, I work in retail. I get salespeople calling me all the time trying to sell my store stuff. Some of these people selling me stuff are super professional. They know exactly what they're doing. Some of these people come in, they're not dressed well, they're not friendly, and I wonder to myself, how did they get hired? And that's a good question. It's supply and demand, right? So if the company is located in an area which has a high unemployment rate, they would be able to attract really good candidates. If it's a low unemployment rate, you have less selection. There's not as big of a supply of candidates. The other thing is, I've got to throw this out there, there's the whole idea of nepotism, which is, it's a family friend, it's a family relative. They know the CEO. As much as we'd like to think that doesn't happen and the job market is totally fair, sometimes it could be a friend of the owner of the company, or they know someone, or they date someone. It could be something like that. And it could have just been a bad hire, that they really did well on the interview, but when it came time to actually doing the job, they weren't that great of a candidate. I'm assuming, though, according to this question, that they're not a good employee, right? Okay. What are the different job opportunities in sales? There's so many. Sales engineer, general sales, a cold caller, a sales engineer where you're actually doing like more blueprints and things like that. There's every industry has it. That's a big genre of jobs. I would just go on Indeed, type in sales, and see the vast amount of jobs that post up. How has jobs changed in the past century? This is an interesting one, and I have a good story for you. My cousin's cousin's dad owns some Kia dealerships in Texas, and we talked about used car salesmen. They're pushy. Kia, especially most of the dealerships, my understanding, is now the way that the car salespeople make money is not based on how many cars they sell. It's based on customer survey results. So they are kind of flipping the switch, and rather than getting salespeople focused on sell, these salespeople are focusing on a good customer experience, because that's how they make their commission. That's how they make more money. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that the way it's structured, the way they're trained, the way they interact with the clients, especially now with Yelp, TripAdvisor, social media, you have to be more transparent. So that transparency will change the industry. And then, as you all mentioned, technology has already played a big impact on it, and that will continue. Last question. My question about sales would be, how would you market yourself if you have an awesome product to sell? There's many ways to do that. As I tell my introduction to marketing class, you definitely want to start with, what's your story? Who would be the most impacted by your product or service, and find those people. Don't just don't just throw it everywhere and just see where it sticks. I would have a clear vision and then go after that. And if you're passionate about what you do and your product or service is good, before you know it, you'll start a small following. That small following will then grow. It takes time. Thank you again for the questions, and I'll be seeing you on the discussion posts.